Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of The Invincible Dragon, a Hong Kong action comedy from 2019 that stars Jin Zhang and former UFC champion Anderson the Spider Silva. This was directed by Fruit Chan, the man who has given us a handful of interesting drama and horror films over the years like Dumplings, Hollywood Hong Kong, The Midnight After, and one of the short films within the Tales from the Dark anthology series. So this is an interesting genre experiment for Fruit Chan. I've never seen an action film from him before, and after watching this film, I don't think I ever want to see an action film from him ever again. Can someone please explain to me what it is that I just watched? I think it's impossible to properly process this movie after one viewing. So I suffered through it a second time just to make sure I got my perspective correct on this. So what is Invincible Dragon about? Well, in a nutshell, Jin Zhang is a cop who participates in a sting operation that goes badly, resulting in the disappearance and presumed death of his fiance. A while later, he goes after the bad guys. Pretty standard action plot synopsis. Well, if I had to describe this film with one word, and one word only, it would be awkward. This movie is really awkward and stupid. So if I could use a second word to describe this film, it would definitely be stupid. You could really tell that Fruit Chan wanted to subvert our expectations with this movie. But in doing so, he never really bothers to infuse any craftsmanship or legitimate fun into it. Do you know how Fruit Chan approached this movie? This is my guess. I have a suspicion. My guess is that he simply decided to shift tones at the most awkward moments throughout the entire film. That's what he did. So if you're familiar with this YouTube channel, you already know that I'm generally a pretty big fan of tonal shifts in films, because I generally find them interesting. Check out the Moon Lee film, Nocturnal Demon, for an example of like an action comedy thriller that I think works. The tonal shifts in Invincible Dragon, however, are executed in the worst possible ways. And this is evident right from the opening scene of the film. This film tells you what it is right from the first 10 minutes. It features a CGI 9-headed dragon, a bloody headshot kill, a terrible song playing over all of this, some goofy humor, and then some action, all just kind of thrown together. It ends, and this is no spoiler, this is the opening 10 minutes of the film. This scene ends with Jin Zhang shooting a dude's arm off with a handgun. His arm flies in the air and lands on somebody's table at like a dinner place, right? And some random dude like peeks out from under the table and starts taking pictures of it. That's your opening scene. And this is apparently supposed to be funny, but while watching this scene, I was not amused. It's way too scattershot and rushed to be effective at all. So if you hate that opening sequence, if you watch this movie and you hate the opening sequence, you're in for some pain, because much of the movie is in that style. I think Fruit Chan just basically threw in a bunch of comedy during the most inappropriate moments and just called it a day. I think that's how he approached this film. It feels extremely lazy in how everything is executed. But what about the action? This is an action film, right? Well, not for the opening hour, it isn't. Invincible Dragon gives us some action blue balls for the opening hour. You basically get the first Anderson Silva encounter, which lasts a few seconds. And then there's a scene with two moped drivers that sets itself up like it's going to be like an action set piece with Jin Zhang. That's over in a few seconds as well. So as a viewer, you're waiting like forever for not just a decent action scene, but an actual action scene at all. Because I would barely count those scenes as action scenes during the opening hour. Near the 60-minute mark, we finally get a fight scene on a train that actually starts off pretty good and interesting, involving Jin Zhang, but then it kind of morphs into a crappy CGI mess, so it doesn't really end well. Then we finally get an actual fight between Jin Zhang and Silva. But it's kind of frustrating to watch because most of the camera work is like the Hollywood style. Too many close-ups and edits. There are a few nice moves in that scene, but again, the way it's shot doesn't help it. And then we're at the finale, and that's basically it in terms of action. Now, the finale represents the second fight between Zhang and Silva, and it's the best fight scene in the whole film, which isn't saying much. It's decently choreographed. There are some good moments in it, but it suffers again from some misplaced camera work, some terrible music choices. I don't know who picked the songs to be implemented in this film, but they're off. Like, it's really bad music. And a lot of times it's like fun, goofy music during these like action scenes. It's not effective. Also, there's some terrible dialogue during the final action scene, which doesn't help, and some dumb humor shows up as well. Now, the actual very ending, which obviously I will never spoil for you, the actual ending is so ridiculous, I almost admire it for its absurdity. But it's also really stupid and cartoonish. It leaves a really bad taste in your mouth when you're done with the film, almost as if the film was like a big joke that was designed to waste your time. The climactic fight between these two guys, these two characters, it represents two people who legitimately hate one another. And they have this climactic, like, final fight. It sets itself for, like, a really good fight. And it ends like a Looney Tunes skit. It's like, hey, now it's time to laugh. It's like, no. Like, no, you're not setting it up. So, yeah, this movie's pretty bad. And then Invincible Dragon tries to have it both ways. Because this movie takes itself really seriously at times. There's some serious attempts at drama, and but it lacks any, like, the script lacks any true character development or story development that works or is interesting, so it doesn't back up the serious moments it tries to throw in. So all of the serious emotional moments in this are embarrassing, and then the dialogue overall and the acting is terrible as well. I like Jin Zhang. He comes off pretty good in most of his movies. Here, he's shaky, and it's probably Fruit Chan's fault with what he was doing with the film. But Anderson Silva should never act in a film ever again. He is horrible in this. He makes Mike Tyson look like Marlon Brando. Like, he is bad in this. And some of the side characters are pretty bad as well, the side actors. So all of what I've told you, I still have not mentioned the worst scene of the film. And it's not really a spoiler, it's just like a random scene that comes in. And I won't tell you exactly what happens, but there's a training montage scene. Oh yeah, training montage scene, it's got the music going, Jin Zhang's training again, and it throws in an image. I was going to tell you what it is, but I'm not going to. And it's one of the dumbest things I've seen all year in any film. It's, you have to see it. I can't believe I'm actually telling you have to see it. If you can find a clip on YouTube or something, definitely watch it that way, but oh man, there's one image. It only lasts for a few seconds. It is so bad. And it has nothing to do with... It's like a training montage, and they throw this image in. It has nothing to do with training. You'll know what I'm talking about. It is really bad. So, I think Fruit Chan was in way over his head with this project. We've seen before that, there have been plenty of, for example, interesting horror films that were directed by people who never directed a horror film before. I mean, maybe they direct dramas or art house films because they're coming from a different perspective. And Fruit Chan actually did that when he directed Dumplings all those years ago. So in theory, he could have done the same thing for action films, but it does not work. It does not work. This is a very bad film. If you feel like suffering through it, it's available on DVD in multiple regions with English subtitles. Yeah. And as always, we'll see you next time.